The Hyundai IONIQ 5 drives well, charges fast, and looks like a fully rendered Tesla Cybertruck. It's for someone who lives in California, wears Patagonia, and exclusively drinks the WeWork kombucha. If you're new here, welcome to Ever, the best way to buy and sell electric vehicles. By going to evercars.com, you can check out our inventory with hundreds of electric vehicles, ranging from really exciting ones to more mainstream vehicles. We have everything from Porsche Taycans to Chevy Bolts like over here. All our vehicles are backed by a 90-day warranty, battery health report, and a 150-point EV inspection. If you're interested, check out Evercars, the best way to buy and sell electric vehicles. The 2022 to 2024 Hyundai IONIQ 5 comes with two different battery options and three different powertrain options. So you first have the SE standard range. This is a base model, and this one is not the best. It has a 58 kilowatt hour battery pack offering around 232 miles of range, but it only has a 167 horsepower motor on the rear axle. It's not very fast. Then you step up to the SE, SEL, or Limited. All these have the same battery and drivetrain options, and those come with a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's great. 303 miles of range, which is really solid, and horsepower is increased to 226 horsepower. It's not a speed demon, but it's still pretty decent. And then you get this, which is the all-wheel drive model. This one offers 320 horsepower, which is really good, but it shaves the range down to around 266 miles. Now, out of the trims, the SE is the base version, the SEL is obviously the mid-level version, and then you have the Limited, which this is, and this offers the most amount of features. This is really the option to get if you want all the luxury amenities like ventilated seats, glass roof, heads-up display, and a premium sound system. But the real sweet spot about the Hyundai IONIQ 5 is the fact that it has an 800-volt battery architecture. Now, what that means is that you have a higher voltage, you don't need to push as much current as you would in a 400-volt EV. And that means you don't create as much heat when you're charging. So you can actually charge this car at a little bit faster rates without generating as much heat. And this car can charge from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes. That is incredible. Starting off, this is the back seat of the IONIQ 5. Now, the thing is, this is a limited version, so this won't represent all trims, but it's very nice back here. So we have nice soft touch materials all on the doors, ambient lighting down in there, and these nice light leatherette seats. They're very comfortable. And I'm 6'11", and I fit back in here perfectly fine. Now, you do get a few extra cool things, like a window shade back here, rear AC vents, and I point that out because the SE models and the 2024 SELs don't get rear AC vents. That's kind of insane. But the rear AC vents are nice back here. You get two USB ports, and this is a 2024 model year vehicle, but we're still using USB-A, so that's a bit odd. And you get these nice rear seat back pockets. Overall, it's pretty nice back here, and this beautiful glass roof makes this interior feel very spacious. Overall, I gotta say, I think Hyundai did a pretty good job on this interior. Now, up front, things get a little more exciting. So, first off, you get ventilated seats for the two front seats. That's awesome. Seat ventilation is an awesome feature, and it makes these seats a lot more comfortable in the summer. Second of all, we have Bose sound system all around here. So, this sounds a lot better than the bass speakers because the bass sound system in this vehicle is not the most impressive, but the Bose sound system gives this vehicle a pretty good punch, and it sounds pretty decent. Now, to turn on the car, you put your foot on the brake and then press the start stop button right there, and the car powers to life. Close the door and you hear a pretty good thud. And honestly, this car feels very solid on the interior. All the bits are well put together. Like I said, you got nice soft touch materials, and it's overall quite well built. You got a nice center console right here. You press right here and it opens pretty nicely. And you can close it like that. And here is the center console, which has two cup holders right here, which is great for holding two drinks. And below this is the wireless charging pad and two more USB-A ports. That's really lame. Please, Hyundai, we need USB-C. Maybe they did it in the 2025 model year. I'm honestly not sure. But then there's a button right behind here, and this can adjust the center console. So you can slide it back or forward. This is really cool. And the interior also has a lot of quirks, like this. Zero gravity seats for when you're charging. This is pretty awesome. So you got a leg rest, and you can recline this back pretty darn far. So now that I'm situated in the incredibly comfy interior, I can lean all the way back. I have my ambient lighting off to the side and my ventilated seats turned on. I could totally take a nap in here. And to make things better, there's a meditation mode. It's called Sounds of Nature, and we have several different sounds that we can listen to, like lively forest, on a sailing ship, city at dawn, experience the universe, and rainy day. And right below the center screen is our climate control menu. This is really awesome because we have pretty easy access controls right here. So we can quickly change the temperature and we can change the location in which the air is distributed. That's really cool. We have our volume for the radio here, and here we can change the radio station. Now, we also have a 360 cam over here, and if we press this button, we can actually see our car in 3D. Now, obviously it misses some stuff, but hey, at least we have this option. It's really cool, and there's apparently a giant Kia Niro right over there. So, back to the interior, or shall I say funterior. Overall, this is the infotainment screen. So you have a EV button and you press this and look what happens. It tells you where the nearest Electrify America station is, and it tells you your range with the climate on versus off. And what's really cool is if I increase the volume in which the air is exiting these vents, oh look, our projected range is going down. That's really cool. If you press up here, you can go to EV settings and you can set the charge limit. So I'm going to be nice to this battery pack, and we're going to set those limits down so we don't have someone charging too high. And next up is the AC charging current. This is a pretty standard feature that you see in a lot of electric cars, but basically this will just limit the current that you're taking in. Maybe say you're plugging into a 110 volt outlet, you're at 10 amps. You can lower this to 60%, which would be like 6 amps, and that's just to prevent the breaker from going crazy. Next up on this screen is the climate control settings, which you can also adjust them down here. I think it's easier just to do it through this way, but hey, if you're feeling a little excited, you can do it through here too. And the ventilated seats are here. Ventilated seats are just one of my favorite features in a car, so it's awesome we have this here. Back home, we have the map. Now the map is here, and the map is honestly not the best. So some native systems I think are a little bit better. This, as you can see, is slightly laggy, but the thing is you do have route planning through here, which is good because then it will precondition the battery pack so you charge a little bit faster, but it's just kind of burdensome. And the thing is with this infotainment, you would prefer to use Apple CarPlay with a lot of this stuff. So say I go to the map here, and let's just say, let's go to San Diego for the weekend. So San Diego. Okay, San Diego, California. Route. It's thinking. Just give it a second, it's a little shy. There we go. Okay, available charging stations will be updated while driving. Okay, cool. It shows us the charging stations. Like, okay, it works, but it's not the prettiest display. And honestly, I would probably just use Apple CarPlay instead. I can get my routes planned in and plug share and do it all my own. And it just might be a little bit better to use. But I think this is still usable. It's just like, okay, this is a little confusing. Also, you can click on the media button right here, and you can go to Sirius XM and listen to Radio Monaco, which is the greatest radio station ever made. So if you're interested in checking that out, please go to Radio Monaco. That's weird. I thought the interior was a different color. Anyways, based on this infotainment system, I think we'll have to rate this the familiar and functional score. This is a mid-level score. There's better systems out there, but there's also worse systems out there. And I think this car does some things really well, also some things that could be a little better. But overall, you have route planning with EV charging, which is a great feature, and you have some cool little quirks like the meditation mode. But hey, if you want to use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you're more than welcome to. However, you will need a cord. And around back, we have the tailgate. Now, it is power operated on SEL and limited trims like this, manual on the SEs, and you see our rear storage area. Now, the thing is, there's just not a ton of space back here. Some SUVs have a lot better space. Unfortunately, underneath this rear load floor, there is not much space, sadly. And you have this nice tonneau cover here, which effortlessly slides in there, which is great for covering your valuables. And now we are on to charging, my favorite feature of the Hyundai IONIQ 5. So first off, you have your charge port here in the right rear of the vehicle, and you have an 11 kilowatt AC port, and the DC port is right down there. Now, what's great about AC charging is the car can accept 11 kilowatts, which is pretty good. It's kind of the norm these days, but some cars do less, like around 7.6, and then others do a little more. But overall, 11 kilowatts is actually a pretty good number. So that's great. And now when it comes to DC charging, this car is really great. So thanks to its 800 volt battery, this car can accept about 235 kilowatts, and it can actually hold above 200 kilowatts to about like 59, 60%, which is crazy. So this car can charge from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes. However, you might ask, can I use a Tesla supercharger? Well, the answer is yes, and sort of. So yeah, you can use an adapter and charge the Tesla supercharger. That's great. The thing is, if you're not at a V4 supercharger, so version 3 and older, those chargers can only supply 480 volts. The battery pack here is around 800 volts. So what that means is the car will need to step up the voltage to be able to charge the battery pack. Now the issue with that is it's usually limited by onboard hardware. And so this car will have to use a rear drive unit inverter to step up the voltage to get it to match that of the battery pack. Now, the issue is you'll only be able to charge at around 100 kilowatts, which is not really that high, considering this car can max out at 235. So the answer is yes, you can use older Tesla superchargers, but the thing is, it won't be able to charge quite as fast. A V4 supercharger should be fine, and that's great. Now, the other cool thing is this car has a pretty flat charging curve too. So other cars have a very steep charging curve like a Tesla. This has a pretty flat one. So like I said, you can hold about 200 kilowatts, above 200 kilowatts, up to around 60% state of charge. That's what gets you these crazy charging estimate times of around 18 minutes. And I've even tested this car in real world, and I saw exactly that. So simply put, this car charges incredibly fast. And now we hop back in the cabin where we can talk about the driving experience. So first off, this car is actually based on the same platform as the Genesis GV60 and the Kia EV6. But that doesn't mean these cars drive exactly the same. The IONIQ 5 has pretty soft and relaxing suspension, whereas the Kia EV6 is a lot more stiff. Now, this means this car is pretty comfortable to drive. The steering feels pretty light, and the suspension is quite forgiving. So on city roads, this car is very comfortable to drive in. Now, one other interesting thing, and that is the accelerator feel. So the way this car accelerates, not necessarily the speed, but the way this car accelerates is highly dependent on your drive mode. So you go in eco mode, and the accelerator feels pretty soft. So you don't get max power until you really mash down that accelerator pedal. If you're in normal mode, it's kind of linear, right? So if you do like 20% throttle, it will give you maybe 20% acceleration. Sport mode sharpens it up even more. So you press down lightly and you get the power more instantly, more quickly. Now, this doesn't really affect 0 to 60 time or anything, but it does mean that the sport pedal will feel like a little sharper and a little bit more fun. Now, the other thing too is this car does have one pedal driving, but it's a little different than other vehicles. So what you'll have to do is shift into drive, and then once you're in drive, you need to put this in iPedal mode. So you have these paddle shifters on the steering wheel. You press the left one, usually one time, and then you're in iPedal mode. And that means when you drive forward and decelerate, you'll really only need to use your right pedal, just the accelerator. Let off to slow down, and a car will come to a complete stop. But when you're out of iPedal mode, this car will drive more like an internal combustion engine vehicle that creeps forward whenever you're, sitting in traffic or something like that. Now, there is an issue to this, and the fact is that it does not save the mode you're in. So if I shift to iPedal mode right now, I'm not always going to be in iPedal mode. For instance, I shift into reverse, and now it's off. And you actually can't do one pedal driving mode in reverse. So that can be a little disorienting when you're in a parking lot, expecting the car to come to a stop, and no, it will actually keep going backward. Now, that's slightly an issue. But other than that, I think the accelerator pedal is pretty well tuned. Now, the brake pedal does feel a little artificial in this vehicle, but that's because this car has brake-by-wire technology. So that means when you're pressing on the brake pedal, it actually is going to a computer, which is then clamping the brakes. So it feels a little bit different than, say, a Ford Mustang Mach-E or like a Polestar 2, because those vehicles have traditional braking. Now, rear-wheel drive models have 226 horsepower, so they're not that fast. Like if you accelerate at 30, it will kind of push you back in the seat, which is fun and nice. But if you accelerate from a dead stop, it really is not that notable. But if you're in the all-wheel drive models, it is really quick off the line, and even more so when you're accelerating at, say, 30 or 50 miles per hour. So if you want a performance vehicle, definitely get the all-wheel drive one. It is a lot quicker. And obviously, if you're also looking, there's the IONIQ 5N, which came out later, and that one is ridiculously fast. But if you're looking for something with a little more pep, get the all-wheel drive. The rear-wheel drive is not disappointing, but it's just not the best either. There's way quicker cars out there than the rear-wheel drive. 0 to 60 takes 7.5 seconds in the rear-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive is around 4.8. As for ADAS features, the IONIQ 5 comes pretty loaded as standard. So first off, you get lane centering assist, which is great. So that means the car will center itself in the lane in which you're driving. It also has adaptive cruise control, which controls the distance from you and the car ahead of it. And it also has several other features like blind spot and a lot of the other mainstream features. But the great thing about this is that if you're driving on the highway, you can let go of the steering wheel for about 10 to 15 seconds and the car will continue tracking on forward. If you upgrade to a limited model Hyundai IONIQ 5, you get Hyundai Driving Assistant 2, which is really cool because what that does is it can actually do lane changes on the highway. So you put on your blinker and the car will automatically change into the next lane. That's a really awesome feature and really helps out, once again, with the stress of driving. But regardless, all IONIQ 5s can steer themselves and control the distance from the car ahead of you. Now, also in the limited, you get Smart Park, which is pretty cool. So you can actually control the car from your key. So you can have the car drive forward or backward, which is really fun. So obviously it's kind of more of a party trick at this point, but hey, it's pretty cool. If you're in a tight parking spot, you can get the car to move forward so you can get in without door digging the person next to you. And I gotta say, the IONIQ 5 is an excellent choice for many people. It's pretty practical, it has good styling, and it's very spacious on the interior. It offers good ADAS features, a decent driving experience, and great features on the interior if you get a higher trim level. So what does that mean? Which trim level should I consider? Well, SELs, like this one right here, are on the lower end of the pricing, and that's good. So if you want something more affordable, definitely go with an SEL. You have pretty decent array of features. If you get a 2024, you get fewer features. So if you're looking at 2022 to 2023 model year, SEL might be a good option for you. But if you want more features, if you want ventilated seats, if you want the reclining seats, Bose audio, glass roof, all those features, the Limited is for you. Limited has the best array of features, and it is a little more money, but you can still find some pretty good deals on them. So the TLDR is, if you want affordable, get SEL. If you're willing to pay a little bit more money, just get a used Limited. And if you enjoyed this video, please keep an eye out on our YouTube channel because we will have plenty more reviews coming up very soon. Thank you for watching.